Good afternoon and welcome to the first episode. I'm so excited about this, you guys. The first episode of Live Out Loud. I'm your host, Raelin Saindon, channel of We Are We Consciousness and healing guide of the healing space. And I have a wonderful guest with me today. We just met yesterday, but already I feel as though, at least I do, I feel as though I know the soul that lives within her, and she radiates out such love, and she has a big, powerful message and platform that she allowed and enabled spirit to move and breathe and inspire within her. And so I am excited to share with you today, Miss Tara Ijai.
That's it. You did.
Ijai, from Love Glasses Revolution. Tara, welcome to Living Out Loud, Live Out Loud. And I'm so excited to have you, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's exciting to be here.
Awesome. So Tara, we were just talking before we got started, and you know, last night, you and I, we were introduced through a mutual friend in response to a video that I was spirit-led to share on my own personal Facebook, having to do with being a member of the spiritual community and a leader in a spiritual community, and standing by and watching the events in our world, especially the current events that are going on, the events of injustice, the events of indecency, the events of really humanity almost at its worst at times, and how it's important for us in spiritual communities to rise up and to level ourselves up and become completely whole in our own life, in our own healing journey, but also in advocacy and support of others, of our brothers and sisters, and our connectivity as the human race. And I know you had shared that you watched the video, and there was some amazing takeaways that you kind of just shared with me, and I would love for you to share that with everyone listening today, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I was listening. It was the first time I'd ever met you, heard you, and you were very passionate on your page. And I was thinking the whole time how brave you are. It's very brave to show up on your page with your closest friends, family, relatives, and not everybody having the same values and beliefs, and to share what it is that you believe. And and you did it. I felt like you did it in such a graceful way. You just articulated. You didn't, weren't trying to put down. You're trying to lift up. You're trying to show that there's more to what people may or may not see. It's all you can do. My best friend and I always talk about planting seeds. You're not always responsible for what grows, but you plant them and see. And you absolutely planted some seeds.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And there was something that you had said too about taking these events, the event of, this poor soul, George Floyd, who recently lost his life, Philando Castile, Sandra Bland, Tamir Rice.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, the confrontation. So many, right? So many. We could just continue to name them. But you had said about the power of turning to love, and your own philosophy in that, and your own view of what it means to live your spirituality out loud. If you could kind of share that. It was amazing how you put that, and powerful.
I just feel that love is very is not easy. It's not fluffy. Many people, you know, we say, I love you, right? But do we really understand what that means? And do we understand how to do that? That's what I think is the most important thing. I've met a lot of people in a lot of worlds that are, you know, hypnotherapists or health coaches or something in an energetic or spiritual realm. And then on Facebook, you will see, and I'm friends with some of them on Facebook, and sometimes they've posted, I can give you a particular.
Yeah.
One time there was a person who posted some very anti-Muslim crazy stuff, and that's how I show up in the world.
Right.
And I'm just like, God, what is that? And it was really off the wall. And I approached the person. I said, you know, I don't know any Muslims that think or believe this particular video. Like, where did that come from? And actually, I think it could do more harm than good in, you know, for my family. I'm just letting you know that this isn't anyone I know. And so, you know, really she proceeded to leave it there. We proceeded to have conversations, and she was an acupuncturist, a light worker, a nutritionist. And I just took and copied and pasted her mission statement from her own bio about how she chooses to love in the world.
Wow.
And put it under there. And I'm like, I just ask you if you're living up to these values. I mean, is this really portraying what you say that you're about?
Right.
And I'm only asking because I can't change this person's mind. I can only let her know that this was not really appropriate and that it could cause potential harm. And I ended up losing her as a friend, but I will tell you that I gained 3 of hers.
Wow. Well, you know, and that's kind of what ends up happening, right? And
yeah,
part of why I was so moved to finally, and here we go. So if you've known me for 2 minutes, you'll know I'm a big just ball of emotion. And sometimes I can get so emotional I cry, but I'm not crying because of embarrassment or fear or shame, but it's because of the passion that runs within me. But, you know, I just had that moment myself where I was just finally met with, I have to actually live out loud myself. I have to, and in other areas I do, but particularly in this area, even in advocacy, we've got to live it out loud. We have to have that level of integrity, because otherwise, being leaders as we are in the worlds and on the platforms that we are, and the communities that we move in, if we're not living, and you said this on your video, and we'll get to that, but if we're not living in integrity ourselves and living, like you pointed out to her, she had her mission statement out there, and if we're not living authentic to that, it does really it taints our message, and it's that wobble, it's that incongruency, right? In how we show up and the effectiveness of what it is that we're looking to evoke in people. So
correct.
you mentioned you're Muslim, and I want to kind of start with introducing the audience to you and your story. I know offline we spoke, you said that it's been about 20 years or so, 2 months prior to 9/11, when you entered into this life that you have now. So if you could kind of walk us through that and share with us some of those experiences, and even what brought you to being a Muslim. And
I'll take you all the way back.
awesome.
I mean, my family wasn't religious per se. We celebrated the standard things, you know, Thanksgiving, Christmas. We didn't, I went to church very early on, but not really later in life. It was more about Bible school and stuff like that when we were younger. I have my Good News Bible still.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say I was religious person. I wouldn't even say I was looking for religion.
Mm.
I will make a very short story long by telling you that it was through this whole series of events that I even learned about Islam. Like, I didn't even really know about it, and I certainly wasn't looking for it.
Mm.
But the more I delved into it, I really liked it. And I was a little naive, a lot naive at the time, so I didn't understand the political or the social aspects around it.
Yeah.
I just knew that I wanted something that I felt it spoke to me, like I could be a better person with it. Like, it would make me personally a better person. And then I'm like, I like this. I'm into this. It just spoke to me. That's all I can say. Like, everyone has a thing, And once I made the decision, I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this thing. And it just kind of led into that.
Mm-hmm.
What's comical looking back is, or interesting, I don't know what the word is actually, is that this, I had decided early on I wanted to wear the scarf.
Mm-hmm.
And, the hijab, they call it, or the headscarf. And I just felt it was something so beautiful. And I had no idea that putting this 40-inch square piece of cloth on my head
Mm-hmm.
was going to change my whole me. That people that knew me my whole life, now I was somebody different,
Wow.
and treated something different,
Mm.
even though
Yeah.
my thoughts were virtually the same, except for maybe up-leveling the
Mm-hmm.
way I wanted to treat people out in the world or myself, or like, it was just a very interesting experience. So I'm grateful for it, though, because I feel like that gave me this interdimensional world thing. I got to be in between two worlds legitimately. Like,
Yeah.
so once you put this on, you're never quite, how do I say this? You don't just quite fit in anymore.
Right.
People are like, I mean, what are you doing? Like,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah.
you're not oppressed. You're not, which, to me, I never felt like it was an oppressive thing. I thought it was a thing
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, let me show you what I want to show of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like a reservation thing is something that I felt like I'll show what I want to people. It was maybe
Yeah.
even rebellious, right? And
Yeah.
uh, then I just really was floored with how it changed things. But I don't know why I am, because I'm a visual person. I can see that
Mm-hmm.
physically I chose to stand out differently.
Mm-hmm.
But I
So
didn't.
what did that do then within your own family? You know, I know for me too, a lot of how I show up now and the practices that I um, engage in and support people in and healing, with energy work and that sort of thing. My own family rejects a lot of that and has their labels for it. And, what I'm hearing you, and we are all, humans make meaning of everything in our life, right? So
Yeah.
for you, the hijab was really a beautiful gift, a way for you to really uniquely stand out and step into that power that you felt that Islam offered you and that sort of thing, right?
Yes.
But for your family, that took on a different meaning. So what was that, or what is that meaning, and how did that impact?
Oh, in the beginning, it was rough because
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out who I was in this life,
Mm-hmm.
and you know how it served me, and then all of a sudden, me doing this, you're not thinking about how it's affecting everybody else. You're just
Right.
trying to get through, and
Yeah.
it's funny. I always wanted to have a conversation with my family about the reality of what they went through, because sometimes they'll allude to things,
Mm-hmm.
and it's funny now, we're great now, but in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning it was definitely rough. I mean, they absolutely
Yeah.
thought like, what the heck did she do? She's
Yeah.
joining a cult, you know. I mean, there was a lot, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm just trying to be a better me. And they're like, but you know, what's with all that? You know, it's
Right.
clearly like it was
Well,
a
and then on top of that, coming into and embracing Islam 2 months before 9/11.
correct. That was a challenge, uh,
Yeah,
especially
that's
we're from
huge.
New York. Yeah, we're from New
Mm,
York. So
wow.
my father called, yeah, and that's the story I'll never forget. Like I mean, he called me crying to
Mm,
ask me to take off the scarf, and
hmm.
um, that was a hard one because
Yeah,
my dad is not like that person gonna just call you up and be emotional. It's gonna be
right,
like the opposite. And
right.
so I just remember really strongly feeling that I made this decision and I have like, I can't just not embrace it because
Mm-hmm.
things get hard. That's what I felt
Mm-hmm.
like.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
it just kind of, you know, I think since then too, I always share that I found a way to get through it,
Mm-hmm.
through the aftermath, because there was a lot of crazy aftermath. If you
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, really, hate crimes were up and all of this kind of stuff. There was a special, even in Arizona, they had special registration where they had the Muslims come and register, like with the FBI. And
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a
Well,
huge,
probably the no-fly lists and things like that. They were monitoring, right? And they still do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I
Wow.
mean, you know, we're that community, right?
Wow.
I mean, it's just so interesting. But um, you know, I really did learn to play small though. That's what I,
Mm.
during this time, I
Mm-hmm.
learned that maybe if I just be quiet and believe what I believe, but not bother people or rock the boat or
Mm-hmm.
wear too dark of colors, or maybe I won't scare them. Maybe I won't make them afraid. Maybe they'll like me. Um,
Mm.
so,
Yeah.
you know, for a long time, I just kind of, and a lot of our community, I think, was the same. But
Well, and I think too that gives you and gave you probably the space then to navigate your new world because, even though you embrace that decision, um, and all of that, still you were very new to that life and
yes,
to what that means, internalizing and integrating being a Muslim inside of who you have always been and who you became, you know. It's that chrysalis period, right? Like a butterfly, you know, except you weren't a butterfly yet, you were still in the cocoon of it all. So
yeah,
I can see on the outside looking in why that felt very safe for you. But I also see that as a natural progression of these types of life changing decisions that we make, in our human experience, right? And sometimes they have some big consequences. There are some fallout. I know the decisions that I went through. My family and I, we were estranged for a period of years as well. We are no longer, very similar to what you have as well. Um, and they hold their views and I hold mine, and that's fine. I don't I don't slam them for it. I don't try to change their mind. They would still like to try to have conversation with me and change mine, but that's okay. you know that's all right. But they don't try really hard because they already know who I am. That's never changed. um, but I see that as really a wonderful part of your story of giving yourself that time, to bring that in. Was that a period of integration for you, of really learning?
ooh, that was deep. I mean, you're getting some good things I've never shared in the world. So you're getting
Mm,
good stuff today. Um, I had to reflect just recently about what it meant. And, you know, I'll say it in a very just general way.
Mm-hmm.
In the world of being, you know, just a regular white girl in
Yeah.
America,
Yep.
didn't quite fit in there anymore,
Yeah.
you know, again. And then yet as a Muslim
Mm-hmm.
and convert,
Yeah.
I didn't quite fit in there as well.
Yeah.
So it was this really weird limbo space of trying to figure out who I was or what's my identity.
Mm.
And I never expected all of that, those pieces with it. Like it just never occurred to me that I'd have to deal with all of that. And
Yeah.
um, it, I feel that I have a lot of gratitude for
Mm.
that space because I get to learn where people are thinking here, where people are thinking
Mm-hmm.
here,
Mm-hmm.
and then, okay, who am I?
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So in the beginning, I wore a lot of, I would say, Arab style dress, traditional
Mm-hmm.
Arab style dress, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what I kind of thought that I had to do in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't feel comfortable. It wasn't
Yeah.
me.
It
And then
wasn't
I
you.
learned, right. So then I kind of learned to find things that would fit within like a more of a modest thing, but still like be my style.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started to come to life and put colors and styles and things that made me feel happy. So you know, there's even that part of it
Mm-hmm.
was a growth. And I think that's for anybody, but especially maybe, you know, trying to add different pieces to it. So
Yeah, I love that. You know, and I think that's a comment too on our own on this you know, human experience path that we're all on. We're first and foremost spiritual beings, right? But we get to navigate our spirituality, our beingness through this interface of humanity. And we're all just simply, like you said, searching for our identity. Um, not, and some of us not fully realizing that the container that our soul is in is not our identity, right? But it's
yes.
literally the soul that lives within it, that animates it. And I love that you shared your own unique part of connecting with what brings you joy, with what makes you feel comfortable in, with what's most authentic to you. How has that been in terms of how you show up in the world and who and what you are, like the relationships that you build, and what it is that you're passionate about and how you share those messages?
I think I've always been, you know, how we love to give labels,
Yeah.
sensitive person in
Right.
this world. Always was kind of a negative connotation for me. I
Mm-hmm.
have really just recently learned to embrace the idea of being a sensitive person in this world. It's an amazing, amazing thing. And
Yeah.
I feel like it's a gift, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, whereas I didn't see it that way before. But I've always loved people. I've always, I was that kid that would walk home from school and I would see like maybe an elderly person on the porch of their house, and I would go in and spend time and sit and talk with them and learn. Like I loved people and their stories. Like
Mm-hmm.
I always loved that. Um, and then I think what happened is when I started to, you know, grow into the idea, I started to recognize that people saw me differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I started making a lot of assumptions that um, people still wouldn't like me because of decisions that I made. So like, um, you know, kind of sometimes became a barrier in the earlier days until I recognized it wasn't,
Yeah.
you know, and so then that's, if you just show up with love the way that you want. Like, you can transcend anything. And that's really where I started to realize that I was creating my own barriers by thinking that I'm thinking for the other people, what they're thinking about me.
Yeah, creating your own barriers by thinking for other people. Wow. And imagining what they're thinking about you, right? Getting
Like,
caught up in the stories that we're making and telling ourselves.
yes.
Man.
We can spend a lot of time in that
Yes.
nonsensical place, and it's a lie.
It is a lie. It's all a lie. I've spent many years caught up in my own stories and my own stories about stories that I thought other people were making up about me too, and or trying to figure out what those stories were and then trying to rewrite those stories.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just stress inducing.
Overthinker.
Yes.
Overthinker here.
Yeah, same here. Well, and I really resonated too with how you shared that, the quote unquote sensitive person. I came into this world the same way, just fully on. It's my belief and observation of other human beings is that we all come in this to the world this way. We're all energy. We all read, interpret, and absorb and emit off energy. And we make decisions based upon energy too. It's just whether or not we want to tune into it and develop that within ourselves. But I always had that sense, and I could feel things from people. I just knew things without knowing how I knew things.
Yes.
And I was very much like you, very curious, and always was interested in people, would always sit with people much older than myself and just listen to the stories and learn so much about the world. I remember I read, I always read things voraciously and a wide variety of different topics. I read Mein Kampf when I was 10, not because I supported Hitler in that mentality, but because I wanted to understand what was behind the horrors of the Holocaust and how people could get caught up in that, and how could those events go on and people just move in those ways unchecked. I know for you that being a Muslim, a lot of that is branded upon Islam that has no place in Islam. That isn't even what Islam is about.
No.
And
most religions.
The most religions, right? And just those deep, deep misunderstandings and the worst acts that, human beings can commit against each other and against themselves, really, is what that is, can impact and affect so many.
I feel like the people bring who they are to whatever they are. So like you can't, I mean, it's not Islam per se, but it's a person that's going to come to that religion. If they're angry, if they're hateful, if they're, not feeling valued, if they're all of those things, that's what they're bringing to them. If they're, feeling good and love and light and supported, then that's what they're bringing. Like, it's a very personal thing with whatever label you throw on it. I mean, that could be political, it could be in your workplace, it could be, I mean, it's easy to label, but there's the depth of what things are sometimes. That's why I really focus on working through my own stuff. Like, I feel like you can go out and love other people, but if you don't truly have that love of self, then what
Amen.
You're not going to be able to be, you're going to waver on your love for people.
Yeah.
And and it's something I work on forever, by the way. It's not that I'm standing here telling you, but I'm telling you that I have to work on it all the time. It's not easy.
It's not easy. And I love at the beginning and when before we started the show, you had shared that love is hard. Love is not easy. And especially when we're met with these contrasting events and contrasting emotions. And it can get very easy. It can become very easy to match that energy and respond and react in ways that we are offended by and our sensibility is triggered by. And the message of love is to turn away from that and respond differently, respond in the change that we would love to see. Love your neighbor as yourself. I love that you call us into deeper awareness of our own self-love. We can only meet people where we are. And I so echo that because, we can't, being in leadership, and we'll get to your revolution and how that all culminated and all of that, but being a leader of a movement of impact and change and magnitude starts with, are we willing to lead ourselves in those places, right? And I love that you bring us into that space because it's so important, and the work there is never done.
Oh, and it's changing. It changes a lot, and what might be, working with all the different groups and listening, I mean, to everybody's issues and where they're at. I mean, sometimes what's for one person, is different than the other person. So you're trying to navigate this space of walking. I mean, you really are going to make mistakes. Let's just do it that way. You are going to make mistakes, and you have to be able to be vulnerable enough to ask for forgiveness when you need to.
Amen.
And you have to forgive yourself for making that mistake. I mean, I'm a dweller, so I do something wrong. My God, why did I do that? I said, like, I'll go on for days,
Yes.
And then you don't want to go back out and put yourself back out there because look what you just did,
Yes.
I mean, if we don't embrace our humanity and give benefits of the doubt to each other, we're not going to make it.
Yes. My gosh, I'm looking at you and I feel as though I'm looking in a mirror because I do the rumination dance all the time. The overthinkers group, we should.
Yes.
I don't want to start that group because there's so many of us already. But I know that people listening will go, oh my gosh, yes, I do that all the time. And we are our own worst critic. And I also see, though, that, with people who it's very uncomfortable for them to look inward and to look at themselves and their own reflection, it becomes easy to project that out. And often when we've gone through big events, we can offload that trauma onto someone else. Through that, and we'll end with this. We're going to do a part 2, guys, so stay tuned. But what has kept you kept you sensitive to making sure that you're looking at the container and what's in your own container and keeping you clean and clear so that you are able to love and continue to expand your love and not respond to the hatred and the vitriol and the labeling and the blaming that you've experienced in your community?
So, I mean, I feel like you have to take a step back and not react quickly to things. Like, I mean, hastily. Let's do it. I'm not saying quickly, but, just knee jerk where you're like, something happens and then, you have to have a thought process with it.
Mm.
And since I'm more of an emotional person, one of the biggest tools that I have in my life, one of my assets, are my best friend in the world, because she's straight up logic, like straight up. And she has that mind where she processes, filters, thinks of things, and I absolutely need people like her in my life to say, I'm feeling all of this, this is what's happening, and it's like almost like I can input it and she just spits out, helps me. So we work through things together a lot, and I would absolutely tell you that if you are a feeling person, get a logical person that you logically knows loves you, so that you don't take offense when she tells you, gives you her opinion directly.
Yes.
So these are important things. Community, people lifting, you have to have a support system. It's imperative, because we're not alone in this world, and how we process things, we often try to do on our own, alone. We don't want to burden people. But if it just doesn't, we need a lot of different things. I mean, it comes back to you making the decision about it, but I just think these are very powerful tools that can help us find our voice and our strength and our why. Sometimes, like you say, we just feel things and we can't express the why. Like this is wrong, but I can't tell you why.
But it's hitting me somewhere.
So these things are difficult for empath or someone that is sensitive. It's difficult because you're like, it doesn't feel good, but I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to deliver it.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, my friend, it's been amazing sharing this space with you. And you guys, I'm so excited to have part 2, because Tara is up to some serious, amazing love and healing in the world. She has a revolution that was conceived within her, inspired to her by spirit, and birthed out into the world, called Love Glasses Revolution. You can find it on Facebook, Love Glasses Revolution. She has her information there, her YouTube video explaining her why. So before our next podcast, I invite you to go check out her page, like and follow it, check out her YouTube channel, and see what Tara's up to. And stay tuned, because we're going to share that with you next week. So do you have a favorite quote or a favorite, a thought that you want to leave our audience with in between our part 2?
I actually had 2 of them that just came to me recently. Maya Angelou, when you know better, do better.
Yes.
To roughly paraphrase.
Yes.
And then, of course, Martin Luther King. When he says, I think the most magical thing is, hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that.
Only love can do that. Amen. I love both of those. So, and no surprise that you quoted both of them. Thank you so much for our time together. You guys, stay tuned. Join me on this podcast. Please like and follow this podcast. And stay tuned. We're going to be talking with Tara Ijai.
Great.
Ijai again next week. And we'll have part 2 with her. And I have a feeling you're going to be a guest on here multiple times, because we could share so much together in this space, my friend. Thank you for showing up in the world as you do, and for your lovely message of love. You guys check her out, Love Glasses Revolution. Thank you.